I have no idea. Hey guys, Darren here. Welcome to Mayhem Country Living. I have no idea what. Uh, screw. I don't know. Initially, I was doing this to read. Yes, yes, sir. Everyone, I am sideways because hell, I don't know, because of YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. And I was going to read a couple of chapters. This is something I said I was going to do. And I thought, you know what? I'll read it live. And it's not like it's anything special. We all read it when we were younger. Hang on, let's see. Hang on. I just, I honestly, no, for some reason it locks it out. Never turn it. You know what? Screw it. Sideways story time. Welcome to, welcome to Sideways Story Time. Uh, Screw it. Uh, Laura Ingalls Wilder, Little House on the Prairie. This is the third book, I would say. And we have a foreword by Patricia McGlain. I'm just going to read it, and then we're going to, uh, I don't know. I grew up on the Wyoming prairie, and I think it's important to remember where I began. When I was a child, I loved reading. I loved reading books about strong children and families. When I first read Little House on the Prairie by Laura Ingalls Wilder, I remember saying to my mother, that could be about me and you and Daddy. That is why we read books, said my mother. Sometimes we read them to find out ourselves or how we could be. Wilder's timeless books set in the long ago past, stripped of everything but drama, adventure, and real life, still have deep meaning. We learn how to be brave and thoughtful and kind. We learn how to endure no matter who we are and where we live. We learn about the power of family. True. Uh, and I'll finish. We learn about the power of family. More reasons to read, my mother might say. I still feel a connection to the wide open prairie, and I can carry around a little bag of prairie dirt with me, like a part of my past. Thank you, Laura, for writing a book that brings the wisdom and spirit of your childhood into my present. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Okay, guys, we may be here for a couple of chapters. This is the third book in Laura Ingalls Wilder. This is Going West. This is from the Little House on the Prairie. And, let's tear it up. And I'm sorry, we're at an angle. It won't do nothing else, but if you guys are here, I appreciate you. I love you guys. And hang out. You might learn something. I have learned so much from this. Going West. A long time ago, when all the grandfathers and grandmothers of today were little boys and girls, or very small babies, or perhaps not even born, Pa and Ma and Mary and Laura and baby Carrie left their little house in the big woods of Wisconsin. They drove away and left it lonely and empty in the clearing, among the big trees and the trees they never saw. But they never saw that little home again. They were going into Indian territory. Pa said, there are too many people in the big woods now. Quite often, Laurie heard the ringing thud of an axe, which was not Pa's axe, or the echo of a shot that did not come from Pa's gun. The path that went by the little house had become a road, and every day Laura and Mary stopped their playing and stared in surprise at a wagon slowly creaking down the road. Wild animals would not stay in a country where there were so many people. Pa did not like to stay either. He liked a country where the wild animals lived without being afraid. He liked to see the little fawns and their mothers looking at him from the shadowy woods, and the fat, lazy bears eating berries in the wild berry patches. Now, going to pause and catch up some of your comments, guys. Hang on, let's see. Pa shot the butler. No, he didn't. Dude. Buddy, I love you. He did not. Pa did not shoot the butler. Or butter. Okay, hang on. Catching up with you guys. Dang. Bunch of you guys commented. Hey guys, okay. Please keep commenting and subscribing, and hit the thumbs up. Dude, nobody strangled him. Anyway, I gotta get back to the story. Hang on, set you guys up. And for some reason it still won't set you guys up unless it's cockeyed. So, beg your pardon. Okay. And I may nothing. Beg your pardon, guys. Hang on. In the long winter evenings, he talked to Ma about the Western country. This is Pa, or father. In the West, the land was level and there were no trees. The grass grew thick and high. There were wild animals wandered and fed as though they were in a pasture that stretched much further than a man could see. And there were no settlers. Only Indians lived there. This is what Pa had told Ma. One day, in the very last of the winter, Pa said to Ma, "Seeing you don't object, I've decided to go to the West. I've had an offer for this place, and we can sell it now for as much as we're ever likely to get, even though to give us a good start in the new country." "Oh, Charles," she said, "must we go now?" Ma said. The weather was so cold and the snug house was so comfortable. "If we are going this year, we must go now," said Pa. "We can't get across the Mississippi after the ice breaks." Seems reasonable. Hey, and while we're talking about seeming reasonable, who doesn't like this sexy beard mustache? There you go. My wife does not. Let her know if you like it. So Pa sold the house. He sold the cow and the calf. He made the hickory bows and fastened them upright to the wagon box. Ma helped him stretch white canvas over them. In the thin dark before morning, Ma gently shook Mary and Laura till they got up. In firelight and candlelight, she washed and combed them and dressed them warmly. Over their long red flannel underwear, she put wool petticoats and wool dresses and long wool stockings. She put their coats on them and their rabbit skin hoods and their red yarn mittens. Everything from the little house was in the wagon, except the beds and the tables and the chairs. They did not need to take these because Pa, being Pa, could always make them and make them new. There was thin snow on the ground, though. The air was still cold and dark, and the bare trees and stood up against the frosty stars. But in the east, the sky was pale, and though the gray woods came lanterns with wagons and horses, because bringing Grandpa and Grandma and aunts and uncles to the site. Mary and Laura clung tight to their rag dolls and did not say anything. The cousins stood around and looked at them. Grandma and all the aunts hugged and kissed and hugged and kissed and hugged and kissed them all again, saying goodbye. Pa hung his gun on the wagon bows inside the canvas top where he could reach it quickly from the seat. He hung his bullet pouch and his powder horn beneath it. He laid the fiddle box carefully between pillows with the jolting would not hurt the fiddle. The uncles helped him hitch the horses with the wagon. All the cousins were told to kiss Mary and the baby meaning Laura. So they did. Pa picked up Mary and then Laura and then set them on the bed. He helped Ma climb in the wagon seat, and Grandma reached up and gave baby Carrie a kiss. Pa swung up and sat beside Ma and Jack, the brindle bulldog, and went under the wagon. So they all went away from the little log house. The shutters were over the windows, so the little house could not see them. It stayed there inside the log fence, between the two big oak trees, and the summertime had made green roofs for Mary and Laura to play under. And all that was the last of the little house. Pa promised that when they got to the west, that it should be changed. Laura said she should see a papoose. What is a papoose? A papoose is a little brown Indian baby. They drove a long way through the snowy woods till they came to the town of Pepin. Mary and Laura had seen it once before, but it looked different now. The door of the store and the doors of all the houses were shut, and the stumps were covered with snow, and no little children were playing outside. Big cords of wood stood among the stumps. Only 2 or 3 men in boots and fur caps and bright plaid coats were to be seen. Hang on. I'm reading, buddy. No. No, 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 no. Where to be seen. A couple of more pages, and then we'll wrap it up. Broken Nomad. Me and Laura and Mary ate bread and molasses in the wagon, and the horses ate corn from nose bags, while inside the store, Pa traded his furs for things that they would need on their journey. They could not stay long in the town because they must cross the lake that day. I imagine temperature, times of year made it, interesting. The enormous lake stretched flat and smooth and white all the way to the edge of the great sky. Wagon tracks went away across it so far that you could not see where they went. They ended in nothing at all. That's interesting. Pa drove the wagon out onto the ice, following the wagon tracks. The horses' hoofs clop-clopped. With a dull sound, the wagon wheels were crunching. The town grew smaller and smaller behind, till even the tall store was only a dot. All around the wagon, there was nothing but empty and silent space. Laura didn't like it, but Pa, being Pa, was on the wagon seat, and Jack was under the wagon. She knew there was nothing that could hurt her while Pa and Jack were there. Isn't that nice? Heck, let's do one more page or two more. At last, the wagon was pulling up a fresh slope of earth, and there were trees. There was a little log house, too, among the trees, so Laura felt better. Nobody lived in the little house. It was a place to camp in. It was a tiny house and strange, with a big fireplace and rough bunks against the wall, but it was warm when Pa had built a fire in the fireplace. That night, Mary and Laura and baby Carrie slept with Ma in a bed made on the floor before the fire, while Pa slept outside in the wagon to guard it and guard the horses. In the night, a strange noise awakened Laura. It sounded like a shot, but it was sharper and longer than a shot. Again and again she heard it. Mary and Carrie were asleep, but Laura couldn't sleep until Ma's voice came softly through the dark. "Go to sleep, Laura," Ma said. "It's only the ice breaking." Next morning, Pa said, "It's lucky we crossed yesterday, Caroline. Wouldn't wonder if the ice broke up under us today. We made a late crossing and we're lucky it didn't start breaking up while we were out in the middle of it." "I thought about that yesterday, Charles," Ma replied. Laura hadn't thought about it before, but now, she thought what would have happened if the ice had cracked under the wagon wheels and all they had gone down into the cold water of the deep lake. "You're frightening somebody, Charles," Ma said, and Pa caught Laura up in his safe big hug. "We're across the Mississippi," he said, hugging her joyously. How do you like that little half pint of sweet cider, half drunk up? Do you like going out west where Indians live? Laura said she did like it, and she asked if they were in the Indian country now. But they were not. They were not in Minnesota. It was a long way to Indian territory. Almost every day the horses traveled as far as they could, almost every night. Pa and Ma made camp in a new place. Sometimes they had to stay several days because a creek was in flood and they couldn't cross it until the water was down. And then they crossed many extra creeks to camp. They saw strange woods and hills and stranger territory with no trees. They drove across rivers on long wooden bridges, and they came across one wide yellow river that had no bridge. This was the Missouri. Pa drove onto a raft, and they all sat on the wagon while the raft went straight away from the safe land and slowly crossed all that rolling, muddy yellow water. After more days, they came to hills again. In a valley, the wagon struck fast in deep black mud. Rain poured down and thunder crashed and lightning flared. There was no place to make camp and build fire. Everything was damp and chill and miserable in the wagon. But they had to stay in it and eat cold bits of food. Next day, Pa found a place on a hillside where they could camp. The rain had stopped, but they had to wait a week before the creek went dry and the mud dried so that Pa could dig the wagon wheels out and go forward. One day, while they were waiting, a tall, lean man came out of the woods riding a black pony. He and Pa talked a while, and they went off into the woods together. And when they came back, both of them were riding black ponies. Pa had traded the tired brown horses for those ponies. They were beautiful little horses, and Pa said they were not really ponies, they were Mustangs. They're as strong as mules and as gentle as kittens. They have large, soft, gentle eyes and long manes and tall tails. They have slender legs and feet, much smaller and quicker than the feet of the horses in the big woods. We are going to wrap this up. They have just gotten across the Missouri. I hadn't even been paying attention to anybody I saw on there. So, thank you guys for coming by and hanging out. I appreciate it. And take care of your people.